Okay, here we are, Hell in a Cell 2016, which is now a Raw exclusive pay-per-view. Just finished watching it about 15 to 20 or so minutes ago, and we got a lot to go through here. So, starting things off, we have our kickoff show match, a six-man cruiserweight tag team match. Sin Cara tagging with Lince Dorado and Cedric Alexander against Tony Nese, Drew Gulak, and Arya Daivari. Sin Cara and Nese opened things up after all the competitors did the ROH handshake. Sin Cara hit a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker on all three opponents. Lince Dorado tagged in. He hit a shooting star press on Nese for a 2 count. Nese did a tilt-a-whirl suplex on Dorado over the ropes and onto the other opponents. Gulak tagged in and did a kind of cloverleaf armbar combination. Alexander hit a handspring roundhouse kick on Gulak. Gulak then managed to counter back. He locked Alexander in a dragon sleeper. Dorado countered that with a guillotine leg drop. Sin Cara came in and hit a short arm power bomb on I believe it was Tony Nese. I can't quite remember exactly. Daivari came in and did a couple spots, but eventually Alexander hit the lumbar check on Gulak for the 3. I guess the good guys, problem with sometimes with cruiserweight wrestling, sometimes they focus so much on the moves, they don't focus too much on the characters. Like there are some that are good guys, and we'll get to a perfect example later, but and that was something that goes back to like the days in WCW, one of the knocks against cruiserweights. There was a term they called them, the first part was vanilla. And there was sort of a reason for that. A lot of them, while they did incredible moves, they didn't always have great personalities. So like Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio and to a lesser extent Billy Kidman, they were sort of exceptions. Yeah, a lot of the other ones, it's like they didn't really have much, and then when they tried to give them characters, it just looked really awkward. Overall, decent match. I mean, you had a lot of high spots. Good for a kickoff show. Okay, our second match, or the starting of the show proper, is the Hell in a Cell match for the United States Championship. Rusev versus Roman Reigns. They called this the first main event because they called this a triple main event. I'll probably explain a little bit onto that later on my viewpoints with that. But anyway, to start things off, when Reigns was on his way down to the ring, he was jawing with the crowd a lot, so maybe make of that what you will. Then again, I think a lot of people have been hoping, promising, wishing, whatever you want for that Roman Reigns heel turn. Maybe it's coming, maybe not. Anyway, to start things off, so there was a lot of punching and kicking for about 2 or 3 minutes. It was a pretty slow start. Eventually, Roman knocked Rusev off the ring apron and into the cell wall. They began brawling outside the ring. Reigns threw Rusev into the cell wall a couple more times and then into the ring steps. At that point, Rusev started to fight back a bit, and he tossed Reigns into the cell wall. Rusev pulled the table out from under the ring. Nothing ever really came of it. If you're going to do something like that, work the damn table into the match. Reigns started to fight back again. Reigns went for the drive-by dropkick, but Rusev was able to counter it with a big clothesline. Reigns landed right on the ring apron. Rusev then grabbed the ring steps and began pounding on Reigns a bit. He then set the ring steps up on the corner turnbuckle, on the top corner turnbuckle there. Okay, let's see. Rusev set the ring steps up. Reigns then eventually managed to hit the drive-by drop kick, just as Rusev had pulled out a kendo stick from under the ring. Reigns began beating Rusev with the kendo stick. Eventually, Rusev began to fight back and tangled Reigns up in the ropes and began beating Reigns with the kendo stick. Reigns managed to fight his way out of the ropes in a Superman punch for a 2 count. Reigns went for his spear, but Rusev countered that with a spot-day kick and then tossed Reigns into the ring steps, rolled him up, only got a 2 count out of it. Rusev then locked on the accolade. Reigns began trying to fight for the ropes, but there aren't rope breaks in the match. But what he did manage to do, he fought out enough that Rusev tried to tighten his hold, and that enabled Reigns to slip out of it. and he didn't quite go for a spear again, but he went for another move. Rusev managed to knock him down just long enough to get out of the ring again and grab a chain out from under the ring. Rusev began beating Reigns with the chain. Rusev then set up another set of ring steps. He did the accolade on the ring steps with the chain. Eventually, Reigns just managed to fight out of it enough to hit a Samoan drop on the ring steps. Then Rusev was still standing on the ring step, managed to get up, climbed up on the ring steps, but Reigns speared Rusev off of the ring steps for the 3 count. Roman Reigns retains. Overall, for a Hell in a Cell match, this was, I think, pretty by the book. The high points were pretty high. Unfortunately, there were a lot of slow points. Like I said, there was a lot of punch kicking going on to start things off, and it just kind of kept happening a lot, too. There would just be these little quiet, dull points. Now, I don't say there needs to be all high spots in a Hell in a Cell match, but maybe you need to learn how to space them out just a little bit better. I mean, it's like it was all high spots, then it was nothing, then all high spots. Then nothing, then all high spots again. Okay, and here's our big breather match for the night. Bayley versus Dana Brooke. Bayley drop kicked Dana into the second turnbuckle. Dana slammed Bayley into the top turnbuckle head first. Then Dana did kind of like this chokehold with her feet. She basically did a handstand, used the bottom of her foot up against Bayley's jaw like this, as Bayley was pinned into the turnbuckle. Eventually, Bayley fought out of it. They're selling that Bayley had an injured shoulder, so Dana was targeting it a lot. Eventually, Bayley managed to fight out of it, hit a series of axe handle smashes, a couple other spots. Eventually, Bayley hits the Bayley to belly for the 3 count and the win. Yeah, that was obviously a pretty pedestrian match. I'm not going to say it was bad. I'm just saying they could have maybe done better. Maybe this should have been the kickoff show match and not the cruiserweight tag. Maybe I would have switched the places with them. You know, then maybe Bayley and Dana could have had a longer match and told a better story. Anyway, the next match after that is Enzo and Cass versus The Club. And yeah, I know they technically go by Anderson and Gallows now, but I'm just going to call them The Club. Enzo and Anderson started off. Enzo hit a running crossbody onto Anderson. Gallows tagged in, and Cass tossed Enzo into Gallows. Eventually, Gallows tagged in again. Gallows hit a lariat on Enzo on the outside of the ring. It's then that basically the club members isolated Enzo, just began beating him in the corner. Enzo fought back, hit a jumping DDT onto Anderson, and managed to get the tag to Cass. Big schmoz kind of happened. Enzo tagged back in. Unfortunately, it really wasn't enough to do much of anything as Gallows and Anderson hit the Magic Killer for the 3 count and the victory. Yeah, this was a pretty forgettable match too. Again, both that one and the Bayley-Dana match. So that's just screamed of we need a bit of a breather break in between Hell in a Cell matches. And obviously, as I just said, between 2 Hell in a Cell matches, because our next match is the Hell in a Cell match for the WWE Universal Championship. Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins. Obviously, you know what that means for the next one, but I'll talk about that when we get to there. Almost immediately, Owens tried to roll out of the ring and began looking for weapons underneath the ring apron. Rollins hit a sling blade on Owens. Rollins hit a snapmare and a running kick on Owens. Rollins then hit a blockbuster for a 2 count. Rollins then rolled outside of the ring and pulled out a table. Owens then hit a running senton onto Rollins' injured back. Eventually, they began to set up a spot where Owens ripped the kinesiology tape off of. It was a very clumsy spot, unfortunately, but it was a nice idea. He ripped the kinesiology tape off of Rollins' back. Or the kinesio tape, not the kinesiology, whatever. Owens tossed Rollins through the ropes and headfirst into the cell wall. Owens hit a cannonball in the ring corner, then Owens hit a second cannonball into the cell wall. Rollins countered a pop-up powerbomb into a pedigree attempt. Both men then super kicked each other, and eventually they knocked each other out. Eventually Rollins rolled outside of the ring. pulled out a fire extinguisher and sprayed the ref and blinded the ref. The outside ref, who has to maintain the fact that the cell door to be locked, opens up the cell door to check on, I think it was Mike Chioda was the referee inside the cell. I don't know who the ref outside the cell was. But he's checking on the ref. They start trying to get him out of the ring, see if he can clear his eyes. And at that point, Chris Jericho runs in, sneaks into the ring, got a message there, sorry. Sneaks into the ring, steals the key, locks himself in with the new ref. Like I said, he still has the key through basically the rest of the match. Anyway, it basically becomes a glorified handicap match at this point. Owens hit that underhook power bomb for a 2 count. I know there's a proper name for it. It just escaped me at the moment. Jericho then breaks a pedigree attempt and gets pedigreed onto himself. Rollins power bombed Owens through 2 tables. There was a spot earlier in the match where Owens pulled out a table and he kind of bridged it in between the ring and the cell wall, and then he pulled out another table and propped that up on the table that had bridged. And those are the tables he went through. Rollins got Owens into the ring, hit a frog splash. Ref counts to 2. Jericho pulled him out of the ring. They were and he began fighting with Jericho for a bit. Then Rollins got out of the ring and began chasing Jericho. They got back into the ring. Owens hits a pop-up powerbomb for a 2 count. Jericho then entered the ring with a folding chair. They began smacking Rollins around. Owens hit a DDT on the chair. Eventually they set up another 2 chairs in the ring. Owens hit a powerbomb, not a pop-up powerbomb, just an ordinary powerbomb, onto the chairs for the 3 count and the victory. And then afterwards, Jericho beat on Rollins with the chair again as Owens left the ring. And this was a heck of a match. It's kind of hard. I did have some problems with it. Mainly just, well, I'm trying to think of the exact way to phrase it. Like I said, there was a couple points where I thought it slowed down a little too much too. Again, not as bad as the first Hell in the Cell match, but definitely a much tighter match. I think that's how, when I said you get the high spots and then space out with some calm spots, that's fine, but to do it in a shorter turn, and not as much as, the shorter spots were the calmer spots were shorter, and I think that helped the match tempo quite a bit. Okay, after that we have the Cruiserweight Championship match, TJ Perkins versus the Brian Kendrick. And this time they actually did the ROH handshake. If you remember last Clash of Champions, Kendrick had refused to do the handshake. Both men opened up with a series of monkey flips. Kendrick's then tried to tape Perkins' hand to the bottom rope. Perkins managed to counter back and hit a drop kick to the knee. Perkins hit a corkscrew plancha to the outside of the ring. Kendrick countered a top rope move with a drop kick. Kendrick hit a detonation kick, Perkins landed a detonation kick, only got a 2 count on it. Kendrick countered a victory roll into the captain's hook. Perkins just managed to get to the ropes. Kendrick went for slice bread number 2. Perkins countered out of it. He flipped Kendrick up in the air. Kendrick landed awkwardly and began selling an injured knee or an ankle. Obviously this turned out to be a ploy as Perkins came to check out on him. Kendrick hopped up, headbutted Perkins, locked on the captain's hook, and Perkins tapped out. Your new Cruiserweight champion is Brian Kendrick. And what I said earlier, how they need to have more personality. Yeah, here you had a clear-cut heel and a clear-cut baby face. And again, there's actually a way to tell a story now. It's not you're not just doing high spots for the sake of high spots. You're telling the story, which is the entertainment part of sports entertainment. And that's why this match really did work pretty well. Even though there wasn't a lot of high spots or flipping and stuff like that. Okay, our second to last match of the evening, the WWE Raw Tag Team Championship match, The New Day versus Sheamus and Cesaro. Cesaro and Xavier started things off. Xavier hit a tilt-a-whirl head scissors on Cesaro. Sheamus tagged in and tossed Xavier into the ring barricade. At this point, Sheamus and Cesaro tried to isolate Xavier, and they began, like, one guy would begin beating him in the corner, and then the other guy would just kind of angrily blind tag in, and then he'd start beating him in the corner, and then Sheamus would blind tag in, and then Cesaro would blind tag in. Eventually, Xavier hit a springboard dropkick onto Cesaro, got the tag to Big E. Big E powerbombed to Sheamus for a 2 count. Sheamus hit a white noise on Xavier for a 2 count. Xavier hit a flying elbow from across the ring on Cesaro for a 2 count. Sheamus broke up an attempted Midnight Hour. They tried to set up, New Day tried to set up the Midnight Hour, and then Sheamus broke it up, but then accidentally kicked Cesaro. Cesaro managed to kick out of a pin attempt. Cesaro managed to lock Xavier, Xavier went for a running kick. Cesaro, boy, I'm fumbling all over, aren't I? Sorry. This is where it got a little car crazy. Sorry. Cesaro countered Xavier. God, I keep saying Sheamus for some reason. Xavier running kick into the sharpshooter. As this happened, Big E tried to get into the ring to break the sharpshooter, but Sheamus pulled him out. He then grabbed Francesca 2 away from Kofi, smacked Big E with it. Kofi then snapped and kicked Francesca 2 into Sheamus. The ref saw this. As the ref saw this, Xavier tapped out. The ref turns and calls for the bell. He called for a DQ, and so even though Xavier tapped out, New Day retains the tag team titles. Then after that, there's just kind of this confusion in the ring because, again, Xavier tapped out. Sheamus and Cesaro were in the ring, and it's like I said, to be honest, match-wise it was pretty good right until the ending, and then it just sort of all fell apart. Like, I don't mind them doing what they did, but maybe they could have set it up just a little better so it didn't look quite like a big car crash. And again, I like the New Day, but their time with the belts has got to end pretty soon here. This is getting ridiculous. It seems like every time there's a decent, credible threat, they just diffuse it all. It's beginning to, like I said, it's getting to be laughable at this point. And now to our last match of the evening, the third of our main event Hell in a Cell matches, the Raw Women's Championship match between Charlotte and Sasha Banks. Okay, before we get to the match proper, let me discuss this whole triple main event thing. Technically, you're not even supposed to have 2 main events. A main event is the main event. You can have, a strong undercard, but you can't have more than one main event. It's like the Final Destination franchise. You can't have more than one final destination. The whole point of the main event is that it's the main draw to see the show. Okay, that being said, on to the match proper. Right away as the cell was being lowered, Charlotte attacked Sasha, and the bell hadn't even rung because the cell hadn't lowered. Charlotte attacked Sasha, threw her out of the ring. Sasha lay in a manner that the cell looked like it was about to come down on top of her. They had to stop lowering the cell. This enabled Charlotte and Sasha to begin fighting. They got fighting out into the crowd. They fought back to the ringside. They're not in the cell yet. The match has not technically begun at this point. They start setting things up. Charlotte rips the top part of the table off, the announce table off to set up a table spot. At this point, Charlotte starts climbing the cell wall. Sasha gets up, climbs the cell wall too. They fight for a while. Charlotte gets down, manages to catch Sasha, and power bombs her through a table. Sasha tries to get up. She tries to get up. She just can't. They're checking on her. EMTs come down. At this point, Charlotte walks into the Hell in a Cell, walks into the ring, starts demanding the belt, saying, "There's no match. Give me the belt. I'm champion now." And then she then gloats to the crowd the whole time and says, "It's champion. I'm champion. 3 times champion." At this point, Sasha's getting stretchered out. The ref starts to acquiesce and starts to give Charlotte the belt. At this point, Sasha, boy, I'm going to keep fumbling, aren't I? Sorry. Sasha gets off the stretcher, charges into the ring. The match starts proper at this point. Let's see. Charlotte monkey flipped Sasha into the cell wall. Sasha had a suicide dive onto Charlotte. Sasha hit a drop toe hold onto the chair. Charlotte hit a spinning sidewalk slam onto the chair. Charlotte did a bow and arrow around the ring post. Sasha used the cell wall to hit a flying knee press. Sasha hit the three amigo suplexes a la Eddie Guerrero. She then followed it up with a frog splash and got a 2 count. Sasha hit the corner knees through her corner knee drop through Charlotte onto Charlotte, who then fell through a chair, only got a 2 count out of it. Charlotte hit a face buster onto the corner of the ring steps, and at this point Charlotte looked under the ring, pulled out a table, set it up. I think they were trying to set something up. Unfortunately, there was a bit of a botch at this point. Basically, this is the ring, and right here's the cell wall. Right here's the cell wall. This is the ring. The table's kind of set like this. And I think what they were trying to do is, again, they're trying to like maybe a suplex spot or a push-off spot to that point. As Charlotte was setting something up, she slipped a little bit, and it ruined the timing on it. And so Sasha only gets off a very weak-looking kick, and Charlotte falls back, falls through the table. Eventually they get back into the ring. Unfortunately, it's probably the one part that really besmirched the whole match. Charlotte ran the edge of the table, got another table out, ran the edge of it into Sasha's throat. Charlotte then goes for the figure eight, but it's next to the chair, so Sasha grabs the chair and hits Charlotte in the stomach a couple of times. Charlotte hits a sidewalk slam for a 2 count. At this point, Sasha managed to set Charlotte up in the corner, tried to do a running power bomb onto a table, onto the table which had not broken yet. Unfortunately, Sasha's back just gave out at that point. Charlotte then tossed Sasha into the corner table twice, didn't break it, and then hit the natural selection for the 3 count and the victory. Your new Raw Women's Champion, Charlotte. And like I said, unfortunately, a couple of bad blown spots, it kind of ruined the match. It didn't ruin the match. It does drop the match down a little bit. It was a darn good match, especially for the first women's Hell in a Cell. But yeah, there were some pretty big mistakes. The timing got off towards the end of it. Also, I'm not entirely enthused about Charlotte winning the belt back again so quickly. It's just like, you put the belt on Sasha going into SummerSlam, she drops it immediately at SummerSlam. She wins it back a little over a month later, only to then immediately drop it again. And in her own hometown. Sasha Banks is quickly turning into Dusty Rhodes, where it's more interesting to see her pursuing the belt than to see her actually have the belt. And it's funny, especially if you recall that last year in NXT, Sasha was a heel. Sasha was the heel most of the time. And again, her as a babyface, she's a great worker, and I don't mind you cheering for respect, but again, we already have Charlotte as a heel, so Sasha's got to be a babyface, and then there's still Bayley out there. I don't know how this is going to turn out. Like I said, it was a good match, so I'm not going to pick on it too much for it. Just the way it ended, really, dragged it down a little bit. As for the show overall, well, really enjoyable. I mean, even the sort of downer matches were not terrible downer matches. Like I said, again, even the matches I had problems with, it's only because of the ending. And not just because of who won, just the way the ending turned out. Other than that, though, like I said, I really did enjoy these matches. I'm getting repetitive, I'm sorry. Really enjoyed pretty much all the matches. I don't think there was really a dud match in it, except for that the Bayley Dana match. That was about it. So, yeah, I think I'm actually going to give Hell in a Cell 2016 an A. Like I said, my problems with it weren't huge problems. Just, you know, again, pretty much nitpicks throughout all of it. So, yeah, I'm going to give it an A. And, okay, see, I'm going to try. I don't want to set everything in stone just yet. Obviously, I got the random trade review episode I'm working on. I'm still in the middle of scripting that. I'd like to maybe try to see Doctor Strange this weekend. Hopefully things will shake out. I probably won't be seeing it until Saturday, though. So after that, next video is, well, the next wrestling videos are going to be NXT TakeOver Toronto, which is November 19th, and then, well, Survivor Series is the 20th, but the review video for it will be up on the 21st. Now, normally, if you go by the 2-week schedule with the random trade review, that would also be a random trade review weekend, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bump the random trade review back an extra week just to, I don't want to put 3 videos out in 3 days. You know, November going into the holidays, yeah, that's already going to be kind of a hectic time. I don't want to have to put 3 videos out over a 3-day span after that. So, yeah. And even then, I think the next TLC is like December 4th, isn't it? Jeez. Anyway, I'll figure out something. See you all next time.